Transportation Committee, and then John DeLuper is our vice chair. So we'll just give folks a second to join, and then we've got to do roll call, and then we'll get started.
Sure. Brian, are we waiting on Droz?
Hey, Josh, Droz had something come up last minute. I believe we're
Okay.
still waiting for a couple others, though, from the architectural team.
Okay, great.
Katie, I have 6:30, so I'm going to start the webinar, and hopefully we should see some attendees joining as well.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
Of course, my cat hears there's a meeting, so he comes right up front.
Great. So this is our Community Board 7 Transportation Committee meeting. We'll have a short presentation discussion from City Harvest, and then we will get going after that. So we still have some folks who are joining, and just looking for a few more Transportation Committee members. So just give folks another minute or two. Thank you. Okay, why don't we get started with roll call, and then we'll actually want to open the meeting also with the announcement or two before we turn over to City Harvest. So Jeremy, will you be able to help the roll call?
Yep, I got it. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to mute everybody. When committee members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself, acknowledge your name, and then mute yourself again. If you are a board member but not a member of the committee, I'm going to write your name down, but I am not going to call your name. Let's start with Katie Walsh.
Present.
Thank you. John DeLuper.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra Alfonso.
Good evening, present.
Thank you. Joan Body.
Here.
Thank you. Joseph Canale. Jerry Chan.
Present.
Thank you. David Estrada. Diana Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Zachary Jacey. Roberto Martinez. Marilyn Melman. Gabino Morales.
Present.
Thank you. Samuel Sierra. Cynthia Vandenbosch.
Here.
Thank you. Chairperson Julio Pena III. I see.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, roll is called. Again, if you are not a member of this committee, but a member of the board, I'm going to write your name down.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeremy. So we're going to turn over in a few minutes to our presenters at City Harvest. I do just want to share a couple of important notes and dates of things that were mentioned in the last community board meeting. And so just if you join that, but they're important. So we wanted to make sure we emphasize them. In particular, I want to call out the MTA Brooklyn Bus Network redesign virtual workshop for Community Board 7, which includes Sunset Park and Windsor Terrace, is on Tuesday, January 31st at 6:30. This is virtual. So we'll post in the chat, and to attend the virtual workshop, you have to fill out the registration form. So do please join that meeting. And it sounds like some other community boards are organizing sessions. John, I'm trying to look for you on my screen if you want to add anything else, but sort of like sessions, debrief sessions as well. And so we might propose this as a future transportation committee meeting.
Yes. It's my understanding that CB10 had a meeting on this last week, that they had a meeting about the bus redesign, and they kind of went over some of the routes. And after their meeting, which is a different date than ours, they're going to recap their transportation committee. And I think they said they're going to create advisory recommendations. I'm not sure how the process for that works. Maybe if Jeremy can supply a little more info. If not, we can talk more in the future, if that's of interest to the board.
Reach out to my counterpart at Board 10.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you. No, that's great. And I think that was a great suggestion. So the, request to everyone is please go to that meeting next week, January 31st. We'll drop a link in the chat for you to register. So please show up. It's really important. We also wanted to highlight what was also raised. We shared this in the board meeting last week, but is the BQE revisioning. So that's just for the Gowanus Expressway as we know it here. The Gowanus Expressway revisioning, it's called BQE South with the Department of Transportation, Gowanus Expressway for all of us. There is revisioning series that's happening right now. There is a survey that is online. We will also post this in the chat. Please fill out the survey. It's only open till about mid-February. And then the in-person session for that, which is listed on their website, is March 23rd for our portion of the Gowanus Expressway. And that's an in-person meeting. There's also going to be a virtual meeting, but that's on the website. So we're going to post that for all of you. Thanks, John. So these are all dates, like save the dates to get on your calendar. And the Third Avenue portion of the BQE, Department of Transportation has committed to doing a Third Avenue study. As part of the Third Avenue study, there will be a community forum. We have a date that is not yet official, but March 8th is what they've shared with us, but it's not yet out there in terms of having permitting and being official, but that's a date that we want to flag to everyone. There'll be more information to come around community engagement for that as well. And that's just for the Third Avenue part of the expressway. Okay, I just want to check to see if there were any other. Yes, so I'm going to leave it there in terms of dates to put on everyone's calendar. And then I will pause now to go over to the main item in the agenda, which is with City Harvest. And Josh, I'll turn to you and then ask you to tell us about all the other participants who will be speaking today.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, thanks for having us, everybody. Appreciate your time this evening. With us, we have Renee Richardson, CFO for City Harvest. Okay. We have Brian Conway from Langen Engineering, our civil engineer. Okay. We have Adam Mead. He is architect on the team. And we have Damian Mello, also architect on the team, with actually two different firms. We've had the pleasure of having, honestly, perspective from two different architects. For myself, I actually worked for JLL project management, really for the team overall. And essentially, the package and the design and the request, has been inspired a lot by Adam, a lot by Damian, and then sort of captured in the beautiful drawing set by Brian from Langen Engineering. And so is it time for us to kind of get into it and share and present? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be sharing their screen. I need to make them a co-host.
Mhm. You know,
I'll be sharing, Adam.
Adam, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Great.
So we'll kick
So
it to
let
Adam
me-
here.
Okay.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay.
Oh, I see. I have two Adams.
Yeah, so it's the one that's
I knew
not the
I didn't
picture.
allow to share their.
So the picture of me is not what where I'll be sharing from. I'm on my phone, so you guys can see. There we go.
You
Thank
can share
Appreciate
now.
that. Yep, great, fantastic. Okay. So this is with some additional information at the end. This is what was submitted to the design board about I guess a month ago now. So it kind of covers macro, micro elements of the project. And I'll kind of orient you guys as far as the project and things that we looked at. And then it goes pretty quickly into the specificity of what we're talking about. And if there's any questions, please just interrupt me and ask. It's not that long of a presentation, so there should be plenty of time to chat about things should there be any questions. So this is the rendering on the right. That is actually pretty close to what it looks like today. The Second Avenue storefront is now installed. It has a graphic on it. It's illuminated at night. The windows above have been opened. It's mostly finished. The signage is illuminated. So this was a rendering we did very early on. So it's pretty close to what is currently there during the day. So this is City Harvest in green with the circle around it, its location. So for us, it was and for City Harvest, it's a very interesting location because it's right on this boundary, as you know, of all that industrial coastline on the Upper Bay. It's nicely located for City Harvest with NYC Ferry and the subway systems. And then it kind of moves right into that neighborhood as you go up away from the water. And it's really in a community that's transitioning. So it's for all the work that City Harvest does, it's a very powerful location. And again, some of this is very kind of dry, specific information that I was asked to include here. So just kind of lot, block lines, dimensions, position on the site. These are probably from the spring or maybe the fall, looking at the corner of Second Avenue down 52nd. So this is basically looking at that Second Avenue storefront on the right and the left. The left, you're looking down 52nd toward where the entry ramp that we'll talk about is located. So this main Second Avenue storefront is kind of the front face of City Harvest, but it's kind of in flux now, considered to be kind of a community engagement portion of City Harvest, something that they haven't had as far as a physical location. And then the entry proper for the City Harvest folks as they come to work is that ramp entry at 52nd. And then the requirement for the ramp is due to the fall off of the land as you head back down toward the water. There's about a 4-foot drop from one end of the building to the other. These are just some other views. So looking straight down Second Avenue towards the water, at the end of the City Harvest property, looking toward the water. And then this is kind of what the condition was very early on. So there really wasn't an entry on 52nd. There was an entry at the back end for the millwork operation that was here. But due to planning and the functions of City Harvest, it really didn't make any sense to have the entry at the back. It made sense to split the building and have the support services towards the incoming and outgoing deliveries of foodstuffs be located central. And then that allowed servicing both ends of the building and then access to the second floor, which is all office space. And this is kind of a drawing showing the existing conditions. So it's kind of a very private built-in step up stair into that central spot, an enclosed stair. And there was another stair that was internal to the building that was the actual office for the former occupier. And this is what we're proposing. So the internal planning is all done. That's all built. This is the ramp that comes up to that entry. So the doors are there. There's a temporary construction ramp currently. But the idea for the length and the location was really so often when these things are done, particularly ramps, they're done with a minimum approach in mind. So we wanted to, given that it's City Harvest and the folks that they deal with, the folks that come into their space, that it's not just a bare minimum ramp. It's actually something that's about the entry sequence and how they look toward the community and those that they service. So there's the plan on the bottom, and that the larger entry where you see a stair inside, that's the main entry. The smaller stair on the left, that's the agency entry. So that's for secondary agency truck drivers that come and drop off at the site. They come actually and enter into the building there. So there's kind of a secured entry for agency drivers. And then the section is a section through the ramp showing the plate steel that runs along the edge and the double-sided railings at the entry. And again, this is kind of what the state of the building was when we took it. So all of those windows on the first floor were all backfilled. The majority of the openings on the second floor were all backfilled and had a kind of a mishmash of either glass block or single pane wire glass, but not a really welcoming site. And then this is kind of the transformation of that. So we've opened all the windows that service public spaces on the inside or office spaces on the inside. The entry actually goes through one of those portals. And similarly, so all that support space has this wonderful north light of these 12-foot high windows and that wonderful architecture on the inside, which is all this exposed wooden heavy timber. This is currently what that corner looks like that I showed previously. So the signage is installed, the 2nd Avenue storefront is open up, and then the black and steel plate on the right is a sample of what that shroud will be like, and I'll get to that. You'll see that at the next slide here as we move down the block. So then again here, this is a rendering looking back down that block. You see the 2nd Avenue, and then about halfway down the building, you see kind of a bent plate, and that is the canopy. And then that actually is continuation of the design that's inside, and then that breaks down and turns into the ramp that you'll see in the next rendering. So in this kind of elevational view, you see both the canopy above, which houses the Cohen community signage. It turns down the building and becomes the ramp, and then is clad on the face. So that whole kind of black and steel is something that we've used within the whole design. So that actually goes inside the building, becomes a stair, and then becomes these privacy screens that run across the space. So it's really this unifying element throughout the design of the entire project. And then the agency entry is much smaller, but it's treated the same. So it's subdued, but not seen as an anomaly. It's seen as part of the whole composition. And this is night view. So looking across the street at the entry. So again, the canopy, which is all the structure that for the canopy is already there. It's not clad yet. But then the ramp telegraphs back towards 2nd Avenue and then has that cladding on it. So that whole expression of the canopy turning down and becoming the ramp is kind of a singular identity for City Harvest. And this is a closer up view. So you really see here kind of that expression of that black and steel. And then inside, you see that stair running up across in front of the windows. That's actually painted black steel as well. You can also see the privacy screens, kind of the little ribbed surfaces moving away from you in perspective. Those are privacy screens from the lobby to the support services and also to the internal gym. And I believe that's the main body of it. I do have some additional information, but that's really the information towards that ramp that we have to present. I can show the appendix information if that's helpful and we have enough time. You can kind of chime in and tell me whether that would be a benefit.
Why, I mean, not sure what's in the appendix, but why don't you go for it? We still have the time.
Okay,
We can run through
great.
it. Yeah.
So this is just I was putting this together and felt like this was important, right? This is what it started out as. So there's the long history of seeing this building go from that 1900 picture of what it was actually built for, which was a transit repair for train cars. And within 40 years, it had already been kind of, dismantled slowly. So from 1900 to 1940, they've already filled in the majority of the windows upstairs. They've completely altered the storefront. It's become kind of a loading dock. And they've already added a stair on the side to get up to the second floor. So whether it was being used at two different operations or not, it's fascinating how quickly you kind of forget this in our time because things move so quickly. But even in the turn of the century, things didn't stay put. There was so much changing with the transit system. You can imagine that this probably the life cycle of this wasn't very long. So we found these pictures to be inspiring and fascinating. And again, this was the first day. These are pictures from the first day we saw the project. So to kind of, see the potential in this building, see that storefront filled in, blank, all the windows filled in. You couldn't really pick two more subdued, somber colors to paint a building, and it just worn out, right? It just really was in a state of being forgotten. And so these are, on the left is our first kind of rendering proposed to City Harvest. And on the right is what it looks like today. So, incredibly proud and happy with all the work that the team put in to pull this off and actually have it look better than we thought it would look when it's done. And for the community and for the building and for City Harvest, on so many levels, it's a really powerful place. Then, so what I was talking about, the internal stair, these are some of the early renderings. For that internal stair, as you come in off of that ramp, and then on the right is when you come up that stair, there's a lounge that actually crosses longitudinally on that space. And so you see that entire clear story, which was replaced. And then I thought it was powerful to show the transformation from rendering to reality. And again, it's always rewarding as a design architect to see something look better in reality than in the rendering. So you really can't fake daylight, and this building is all about daylight. So it really is a powerful space. So everything that we've done to bring that daylight back in the space has been, has been done, and a great reward seeing it actually better than we thought. And then just for orientation, you can see here's the kind of how the plan of the warehouse facility was used. So again, where our entry that we're discussing is on the plan north portion, running right to left, kind of middle of building. That comes into the stair that wraps up the stair up to the second floor. And then there's support for all of the shipping and receiving. There's all of the warehouse, both dry storage, cold storage, and freezer storage that moves over towards 53rd Street. And then on 2nd Avenue, that portion that's kind of laid out similar to what might look like kind of a cafe, that's still in transition, but seeing as a highly potential place for community outreach facility. So how that really resolves itself is still in flux, but that becomes a real front face of City Harvest towards the community. We thought was a really powerful expression. So that's it as far as the extra stuff I had as well. And I would
thank you
add,
so much.
oh, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh,
I was just going to see
okay.
if Brian for Langdon had anything to add, just as far as logistics for this. Please chime in, but anything you guys might have for me or us is more than welcome.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Not too much to note on my end. We took, Adam and his team's drawings and basically turned them or reformatted them for submission to DOT for their revocable consent for submission to them through that process. And that's what, leads us here today, presenting in front of you guys.
That's great. And Brian, that's where I was going to head, just to give everyone from the community board and the committees a chance to understand what we're doing today. So we have this presentation from City Harvest, and we can go back maybe to one of the visuals that Adam had, which is the stairwell, building this out on 52nd Street. That essentially is that's the ask. It's a focus today.
Yes.
And that's the thing that we're going to have to vote on to be able to advance to Department of Transportation. And so that's like the technical issue at hand. There might be other questions that people want to ask, and other considerations they might have. But Jeremy, that is effectively what we're going to be doing at like
So
in this
We
meeting.
are required to hold a meeting on the revocable consent, which is the space that they showed us, which is external to the building right now.
Yeah. And do we need to do a vote?
It would require a vote, yes.
And it'll require a vote. Okay, so that's what we're doing in this conversation. I am going to open it up for some questions. And so Julio, your hand was up first. It could be a process question. It could be so go for it. So Julio, and then we'll go to Jerry.
Thank you. After all these years, I still can't find the mute button. Thank you for the presentation. It was incredibly thorough, and I very much appreciate seeing what is happening at this building. I have two. Well, it's going to end up probably being more than two questions. One is what is happening at this rescue center? Is a lot of this currently happening now? The facility usage, or is it
Yes.
that
It's actually functional now.
oh, that's great to hear. Second part is this like open to the public, or is there public facility usage at this facility?
There is not public access per se, but there is an event space which can be rented out. So, communities could rent it out for events that has a kitchen in it, has a event space on the second floor, and also has an amazing terrace that opens up with views of the city. And then they also sponsor, which are volunteer-based, these events called repacks, which is their process of taking this bulk food and repurposing it to more manageable sizes for folks. So there are actually things that the public can participate in on that level, which I think is a great community engagement. And then there's also the event space that's more of a thing that could be rented out for folks within the community.
Thank
just
you.
add to
Sorry.
that, because I also see the question, is the event space free for our community? I would say that we definitely, and sorry, I'm Renee, I'm from City Harvest. We have meeting rooms that we had always envisaged that we would allow the community to come and use if they needed to. And we'd definitely be open to discussions about like, oh, we need to have a meeting here, holding them in our meeting space. And, like I can put you in touch with people to organize that. And then the storefront that Adam was talking about, we're still determining how that will be used, but we envisage that would be something to do with the community as well.
Thank you. And my final question, and I'm not sure who this is geared towards, but I'm curious why this is before DOT and not, let's say, like DOB or some other city entity. Is it? I'm assuming this is because it's part of like the stairs encroaches on the street or something.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because it encroaches on public right of way.
It's simply this process falls within DOT's perspective, the revocable consent. It's not a buildings issue, it's DOT because of the encroachment.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. That's it for me, Katie. Thank you.
Okay, can go to Jerry Chan, and then please put hands up so I'll call Diana after Jerry. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. A great presentation. I love how you guys redesign the buildings and stuff. So here's my question, right? Looking at the ask of this right now is about, do we approve of that ramp that you guys building on, that's showing on the screen? Right. So my question is, right, how big is the sidewalk? First question, how wide does it take up the sidewalk? Two is, I don't see any lighting, right, on okay. I don't see any lighting because that area is kind of dark anyway, even though your building is all white. I don't see any lighting on the well for safety in case somebody run into it because it's
So
black, right?
right. So there's lighting on the building that illuminates that area. There is the ramp itself is 6 feet wide, and then there's an additional 9 feet for the sidewalk. So it's a 15-foot wide sidewalk. So we're asking for 6 feet, which when you're all said and done makes it a legal ramp for ADA accessibility as far as width. And so the lighting on the building is an up and down light. So that both hits the surface of the ground, which it does quite a good job of that. And then it illuminates the canopy itself. So it is illuminated that area at night.
Okay, so so let me kind of follow up with that question. Right, thank you,
Sure.
thank you for answering that. So I'm not 3.5 feet tall. Okay, pretend I'm 3.5 feet tall kid walking there. Right, their eye level a little bit different from I'm looking in from high
Yep.
level. For my high
Yep.
level, I might see the lights and stuff. For their level, right, they might not be any light. Right, it's shining, and I'm just talking about safety. For the
Sure,
if
sure,
young
sure.
kids and children walk in the neighborhood, I don't want them walk right into the ramp, and because that ramp is metal, right?
Well, the
It will-
ramp
it will-
itself isn't, the rail is, right? The ramp would be concrete and would be much brighter. And there's requirements for lighting. So it would be the appropriate foot candles for illumination for a sidewalk and a ramp. So you would never lose sight of that, right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Back to
Thank
you,
you for the,
Madam Chair.
thank you for the questions.
Thanks. Diana and then John.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on that question, I'm interested in knowing how this ramp plays into the overall accessibility of the building. Is the building currently accessible or not? Are there other entrances that are accessible? I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. So the 53rd Street side of the building is accessible. This side was not because of the drop off of the slope of the site. So the other side of the block doesn't slope off as much. So we had to add this to make this side accessible. And it's also, there's a internal elevator that we added for accessibility to the second floor. So given that this is the main entry for the people that work on a daily basis at City Harvest, we felt that we needed to make, this accessible. Well, both sides needed to be accessible, but this really needed to be, as if somebody was coming here to visit City Harvest, the folks at City Harvest, for a meeting with City Harvest, this is how they'd arrive. So it needed to be accessible. So this was really the problematic side of the building, right? Because that slope is really, you really notice it when you're there at the building. And then we also added an elevator inside so that when you got in, you could go right upstairs. So both of those things, twofold, are ways that we made this part of the building accessible. And based on the planning, it just ended up that the 53rd Street wasn't going to work out to be the main entry for folks coming into City Harvest because of the planning that we were doing on it. So we ended up having these two entries, and this ended up being the one for City Harvest workers. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay. So, and that does
Okay.
actually piggyback to my second and final question, in terms of, you've kind of mentioned a few different uses for this building, including like possible uses. What are the predominant uses of this building and of this entrance in particular?
Predominant use is the people that work on a daily basis at City Harvest. This is how they enter the building.
And what kind of, are these office workers? Are they actually packing food? Is it both?
It's mostly office workers. So there's office on the first floor that are people that are mostly servicing the distribution, deliveries, and outgoing of trucks, which come in the parking lot and come in through the backside of the building. But all the people that work at City Harvest and do all the work behind the scenes to manage and kind of make the thing work, as far as the oil and the gearing, they all come in this entry.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you so much.
So just to add, for repacks, if the volunteers, so the repacks are typically volunteer driven. So those folks would come in the 53rd entry. So there's a different, because it's on the other side of the building, there's a different entry sequence. So again, they come in, there's a lobby over there. They come in there, they go up an elevator, and then they come out to this warehouse space on the second floor that's used specifically for repackaging of foods.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
John and then Jeremy, and then I will have a question. Thanks.
All right. So I have a two-parter question. The first is this location where it is, it's very beautiful. So, and the lighting is great. So I hope that will continue with everything that Jerry mentioned, that any ramp will also be well illuminated from that. But my question, and this is an accessibility question, is the area is rife with sidewalk parking from cars and trucks. And it's really hard to walk around as a person. And, you know, I'm somebody who calls 311, and I've had police call me and they go, oh, you know, we can't really ticket people because this is an industrial area. Nobody lives here. These are hardworking people who park their cars on the sidewalk. And so we just can't issue any tickets. Have you considered what happens when your ramp is blocked by sidewalk parking, and if there's a plan for that?
You mean as far as drop off? Somebody dropping somebody off? So the
I wish
ramp
it was just dropping off, but people will park their cars all day down there, and yeah.
Right. But the ramp itself is on the sidewalk, so
Oh no, but
you could
people park on the sidewalk. I think, I don't know if
Yeah.
you've
No.
been in our community, Adam, but that is what happens. Is
And
that
especially in this area.
so
Yeah,
I guess
the sidewalk is considered parking in our neighborhood.
it's completely
I don't-
illegal, but
Right.
it happens.
so. I don't know if I think if Renee's still on, she might be able to answer this. I don't know if they've had any issues with people pulling up onto the sidewalk.
Thankfully, we've not had any issues with
Yeah.
anybody pulling up on the sidewalk at this point. And we've been there probably in the warehouse space over a year now. And then we moved into the other spaces more recently. But my team has not experienced that as of yet. And we are open, 7 days a week, and we do start work at 3 a.m. like our warehouse staff. So they would see that and probably be able to address it.
Okay. Yeah, because my second.
But I hear your point. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want people blocking the main entry to a building. Certainly.
Yeah. And my second question related to that, because in this picture here, I see the trees, which, correct me if I'm wrong, are not there yet, right?
I believe they are
They
going
have
in
been
actually.
planted.
Oh,
Yeah,
they have
they
been planted.
were recently
planted.
planted in the last couple of months.
Okay, cool. Because I was going to ask if that was intended as a mitigation measure. If you have the sidewalk with trees on them, then it's harder to park there. So, but either way, having trees there is a great thing. And so
Lucky accident on our part.
All right, cool. Thank you. Those were my questions.
Great. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I'll go Jeremy and then I'll jump in with a question. Yep.
And I wanted to point out, we have an attendee as well, and they have their hands up too.
Okay.
So this issue is really this community board's introduction to City Harvest. We really don't have any contacts. We'd love to make contact. We'd love to be in touch. Love to get to know our new neighbor.
And we would love that as well. So I on the only one on the call actually from City Harvest, but I think you already have my email address, and if you send anything to me, I can make a contact. I can make an introduction within our organization to the group that is very community focused, and so that you can make contact with them.
Great, thank you. I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Awesome.
Okay, so a couple of things I think that touch on this. So, to John's point, for folks that go down there, right, that have seen it, like we've seen that you guys have been there. Sounds like, Renee, it's been a year in operation, and you guys have been there 7 days a week, and it is the Community Board 7. This is our first time having City Harvest come and then asking for this, consent of the stairway. So I think what the ask is, we want to have you all be a community partner. We have some major issues that we're dealing with in this community, especially around trucking and traffic and congestion and safety. Jerry Chan, who's asked a lot of the questions, is the chair of the Public Safety Committee. You've also got Cynthia Felix. She's also, chairs, co-chairs, vice
It's the
chairs,
other
but
way. It's the other
the
way.
other way
Thank
around.
you.
Cynthia's chair. Sorry, Cynthia's chair.
Ooh.
Jerry's co-chair, but vice chair. But just to say that, like, you've got folks here who were all volunteers, we're all community members, but public safety, transportation, these are major issues. And so, you know, again, this is about the stairwell and giving you guys access for that. But we would like to know, you know, how many trucks you expect to have going in it, like you already have for a year going in and out of the space, in terms of like traffic, air pollution, asthma is a really big problem in this community. We have some of the highest, you know, lung cancer asthma rates in Brooklyn, with Red Hook, in our district. And so, you know, these are major concerns, and we really need City Harvest as a partner in the community. So, you know, we have you guys here today, you know, asking for this, but we are saying that we need you all to be, you know, a partner in working with us. And it sounds like there's some things that, you know, could be developed. You've got this like storefront area. There's so many organizations that work in this community that I think also could be partners. So I think that's one of my biggest takeaways, is trying to find a way for City Harvest to be better partners, you know, to be partners with us. And there was just something that was in the presentation from Adam about, you know, for a community that is in transition, was something that was put in the presentation. And I don't know, like, I wanted to better understand what that meant in terms of talking about, you know, our community and Sunset Park in particular. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here for City Harvest to work with Sunset Park and Community Board 7.
And from City Harvest would be more than we're not, it's not we would be, it's like we are actually very interested in that. And I think that before we moved into the building, we have had, you know, certain conversations with the community boards in the area and done some surveying. So as I said, I would be more than happy to introduce you to our community facing team. And I think that they would be thrilled to talk with you and partner with you on certain things.
Great. Okay, so let's make that happen. Just because, again, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves, this is the first time kind of in this situation in this committee. But we want to kind of be able to work together. Jerry, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just realized, looking at not this drawing, I also see that you guys put up those bike docking station, right? Not docking station, right? For locking up bike along that street. So John, answer your question, right? I think besides the tree, there is bike stuff along the way that people cannot park on the sidewalk. I'm looking at Google Map. I see it on Google Map.
That's good.
Oh, the bike.
Thank you, Chair.
There were city bike did an install at the end of the block on the opposite side of the street, down on First Avenue, and then I think there are some bike racks actually that have been installed.
Yeah, bike rack. Yeah, along
yeah.
Between those trees. I see it.
Yep. Great.
So I think I want to add to John's question, right? So I guess you guys do have a private security or corporate security in that building that will chase people away when they park on the sidewalk. Right, John, is that a better question to ask?
I would say that yeah, do they have ways like if they can do that, that's good. And also, is there any things that do they have, how can they do that? Do they have people?
Do you guys
that's
have
a great
corporate
question.
security? Do you guys have corporate security or physical security or private security that will chase people away when people start parking on the sidewalk? Because I know across the street from you guys is the Hyundai service department. I know they always park on the sidewalk. So that question towards City Harvest or the DOT, whoever that is.
We haven't experienced anybody parking on the sidewalk so far. We do have security in the building. They're mostly, inside the building as opposed to around the perimeter. But we do have security and we do have staff there at all times of the day and night. So far it's not been an issue for us.
Yeah, there is also, to add to Renee's comment, there also are camera security on the entire perimeter is covered. So some of the things, even concerns we had early on, I think part of this building reactivating itself in the community has probably been helpful. The lights are on inside because people are there all around. The exterior lights are on. That activity tends to dissuade some of that, not totally, because I'm sure now that we've had this conversation, Renee will get a call that, oh, there was a car parked out in front of our entryway, right? That usually is what happens when an issue is brought up. Tend to be how the karma works for folks. But I think, there's been a lot done to make the building a good participant in the neighborhood as far as how it's illuminated and how it's active. So our hope is some of that passive engagement will help that. And then, obviously, if things start to arise, I would imagine that Renee and her team will have to kind of change tactics if that becomes an issue.
Thank you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks. Go to Sam.
Sure. Hi, good evening. Just a quick question. I wanted to ask if City Harvest would commit to some no parking on the sidewalk signage. I think it's a simple remedy. Prominent no parking on the sidewalk sign somewhere there, I think would be very helpful. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Renee, I think you could probably reach out to Andy and I'm sure he could come up with some nice signage to add to the body of signage we already have on the building. But that certainly would be, being proactive is a great idea. Thank you for that, Sam.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands up. Jeremy, it looks like we might have lost the attendee that was.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone. Okay, so just seeing if there's anything else in chat. Okay, so at this point, what we need to do is do a vote, and I think let's just do a roll call vote.
So Katie, nobody's made a motion yet.
Oh, sorry. Make a motion to provide. Well, can you help? Can you help spell it out? What's the way to frame it?
So it's really just a form that we have to send in, a revocable consent form to DOT. Okay. So are you talking a positive, an affirmation of this application, Katie?
An affirmation.
Thank you. Thank you. Julio's raised his hand. I think he's going to.
Okay, thanks, Julio.
I like to motion that we support the irrevocable the irrevocable trust brought before this committee.
I second that.
So shall I call roll on that?
Yes, please. Thanks for your help.
No problem. Katie Walsh?
Yes.
Katie Walsh, yes. John DeLuper?
Yes.
John DeLuper, yes. Sandra Alfonso?
Yes.
Sandra Alfonso, yes. Joan Body?
Yes.
Joan Body, yes. Joseph Canale? Joseph Canale? Jerry Chan?
Yes.
Jerry Chan, yes. David Estrada? David Estrada? Diana Gonzalez?
Yes.
Diana Gonzalez, yes. Zachary Jacy? Zachary Jacy? Roberto Martinez? Roberto Martinez? Marilyn Melman? Marilyn Melman? Gabino Morales?
Yes.
Gabino Morales, yes. Samuel Sierra?
Yes.
Samuel Sierra, yes. Cynthia Vandenbosch?
Yes.
Cynthia Vanden Bosch, yes. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Julio Pena.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie, the vote is 10 yeses, 0 nos, and no abstentions.
Great, fantastic. So as follow-up items, we will share this. This will go to DOT. And Renee, we have a bunch of follow-up items to work with you on in partnership for community space, as well as questions around trucking and traffic and transportation, and working really closely with your community liaisons. And Jeremy will follow up with you as next steps to engage with City Harvest.
Excellent. Thank you. I look forward to hearing from you.
And this is
Great.
this is Sammy once again. I'm sorry. Just wanted to remind you about the signage as well. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you. We'll reach out to our signage folks about that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining tonight's meeting.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Okay, move to
you.
close. Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.